A rich HOA Karen mocked an old farmer's hands, but what she didn't know was, he had blueprints that would shut her down in court. "You call that a permit?" Karen scoffed, pointing at the dirt-stained papers clutched in old man Jake's weathered hands. Jake, a quiet farmer who had owned his land for over 30 years, stood at the community center, surrounded by smirks from the local HOA board. He wasn't dressed in designer clothes, didn't speak with polished words, but what he had was pride, and a plan. A plan that Karen, the self-declared queen of the HOA, found absolutely laughable. Karen was used to getting her way. No front lawns taller than 2 inches, no garden gnomes, and definitely no ugly farming activity near the community clubhouse. When she heard Jake wanted to convert part of his land for a public garden and market, she laughed in his face. Big mistake. What Karen didn't know was that Jake wasn't just some local farmer. His family had owned the land long before the HOA ever existed, and he had every legal right to develop it. When Karen tried to humiliate him at the HOA meeting, calling his hands too filthy to hold a pen, let alone a permit, she unknowingly lit a fire under a man who had tilled earth tougher than her rules. Jake calmly walked out of the meeting, but not before saying, "You'll eat those words, and maybe some fresh tomatoes too." 3 weeks later, Jake returned, this time not with a permit, but with blueprints. Massive, official, stamped blueprints. Turns out, years ago, Jake had worked with a state-funded agricultural program to draft plans for a sustainable community farm. The documents were filed, approved, and ready for action long before the HOA was ever formed. And what was more shocking, his land had a grandfather clause, legally protecting his development rights. Jake didn't just have permission, he had protection. Karen tried to block the project by dragging Jake to court. She hired expensive lawyers, spread rumors, and even launched a petition. But when the judge reviewed the case and saw Jake's blueprints and legal documentation, her smug expression crumbled. The courtroom fell silent when the judge said, "This court recognizes the legality and validity of Mr. Jacob Miller's development plans. The HOA has no authority over his land." Karen turned pale. The room erupted in applause. Months later, Jake's farm was up and thriving, a beautiful blend of sunflowers, tomatoes, fresh herbs, and community smiles. Locals loved it. Kids learned to garden. Families came every weekend, and Karen, she moved out quietly, unable to bear the irony of a thriving community she tried to kill. Jake never gloated. He just smiled, handed out fresh produce, and said to every visitor, "You'd be surprised what these calloused hands can build when you stop laughing long enough." To listen, like, comment, and subscribe. If you believe every underdog deserves a win, let the Karens laugh, the farmers grow legacy.